full big was of muscle and bone, who proved himself, for wherever he went at wrestling, he would always win the ram. He was short-shouldered, a broad, thick cudgel. There was no door he couldn't yank off its hinges, or go through by ramming it with his noggin. His beard, as any sow or fox, was red, and there too broad, as though it were spade. Upon the tip of his nose he had a wart, and thereon stood a tuft of hairs, red as the bristles of a sow's ears. His nostrils were black and wide. A sword and buckler bore he by his side. His mouth gaped big as a furnace. He was a talker and a joke-teller, and those mostly of sin and off-color. He could could he steal wheat and grind it thrice, and yet he had a thumb of gold, by God. A white coat and blue hood wore he. A bagpipe well could he blow and sing, and with it he brought us out of town. A worthy manciple was there of a law school, from whom buyers might take example, to be smart in purchasing their needs, for whether he paid or put on account, always he so carefully watched his pennies, that he was always ahead and in the black. Now is that not of God a full fair grace, that such an uneducated man should surpass the wisdom of a heap of graduates? Of masters had he thrice 10, who were of law expert and skilful, among whom there were a dozen in that house, worthy to be stewards of money and land, for any lord that is in England, able to make him live within his means, in honor debt-free, unless he had big dreams, or to live as frugally as he desired, and the same dozen were able to help an entire shire in any situation that might happen or befall, and yet his manciple made fools of them all. The reeve was a slender, choleric man. His beard was shaved as close as he could. His hair was by his ears closely shorn. His top was cut short like a priest's in front. Full long were his legs, and full lean. Like a staff there was no calf to be seen. Well could he keep a granary and a bin. There was no auditor who could catch him short. Well judged he by the drought and by the rain, the yielding of his seeds and of his grain. His lord's sheep, his cattle, his dairy herd, his swine, his horses, his livestock, and his poultry were wholly in Reeve's governing, and by his contract he kept the reckoning. Since his lord was in age by 20 years, there could no man bring him in errors. There was no bailiff, nor herdsman, nor other servant, but that he knew their tricks and their deceit. They were afraid of him as of death. His dwelling was full fair upon a heath, with green trees shadowed was his place. Better than his lord he could his goods increase. Full rich he was with private stock, his lord could he please full subtly to give and lend him of his own goods, and receive thanks, and gift coat and hood. In youth he had learned a good trade. He was a fine craftsman, a carpenter. This reeve sat upon a full good farm horse, that was all dappled gray, and named Scott. A long coat of blue upon him he had, and by his side he wore a rusty blade. Of Norfolk was this reeve, of whom I tell, from near a town called Bodswell. Belted he was as a friar, and he rode always in hindmost of our group. A Sumner was there with us in that place, who had a fire-red cherubim's face, For pimpled he was, with eyes narrow, as hot-blooded he was, and licorice as a sparrow, with scabby black eyebrows and scraggly beard. Of his face children were afraid. There was no quicksilver, lead oxide, nor brimstone, borax, white lead, nor oil of tartar lotion, nor ointment that would cleanse up and bite, that might help him of his pimples cure, nor of the bumps sitting on his cheeks. Well loved his garlic, onions, and also leeks, and for to drink strong wine red as blood. Then would he speak and shout as if he were deranged. And when he had drunk enough wine, then he would speak no word but in Latin. A few phrases had he, 2 or 3, that he had learned out of some decree. No wonder it was he heard it all the day, and you know well how a bird can call Walter as well as can the Pope. But if you would in other things him query, then he'd used up all his philosophy. Ever quaestio quid irius, would he cry. He was a worthy rascal, and also kind. A better pal could no man find. He would allow for a quart of wine a Betty to have his concubine for a year, and excuse him in full secretly a young thing could he seduce. And if he found somewhere a pal, he would teach him to have no fear with regard to the archdeacon's curse, unless a man's soul were in his purse. For then in his purse should he punished be, purse in archdeacon's hell, said he. But well I know he lied indeed. Excommunication each man should dread, for curse will slay as absolution saves, and also avoid a warrant for arrest. In his power, in his own way, he the young wenches of the diocese, and knew their secrets and gave them advice. A garland had he set upon his head, as big as if it were for a tavern sign. A buckler had he made with a loaf of bread. With him there rode a gentle partner of Roncesvalles, his friend and his companion, who straight was come from the court of Rome. Full loud he sang, "Come hither, love to me." The summoner joined in with a strong bass voice. No trumpet made half so much noise. This partner had hair as yellow as wax, but in truth it hung as does spray of flax. In thin strands hung the locks that he had, and there within his shoulders overspread. But thin it lay in small locks, one by one, but hood for fashion's sake wore he none, for it was packed up in his bag. He thought he rode in the newest style. With hair loose, save his cap, he rode with head bare. Such staring eyes had he as a hair. A Veronica had he sewn on his cap. His bag lay before him in his lap, brimful of pardons, fresh hot from Rome. A voice he had as small as a goat. No beard had he, nor ever should have. His face was smooth as if it were just shaved. I believe he was gelding or a mare, but of his profession from Berwick to Ware. Never was there such another partner, for in his bag he had a pillowcase. That he said was Our Lady's veil. He said he had a piece of sail that Saint Peter had when he strode upon the sea, till Jesus Christ of him took hold. He had a cross of metal full of gems, and in a glass jar he had pig's bones. But with these relics, when he found a poor parson dwelling in the country, in one day he made himself more money Then that parson got into mints, and thus, with fine flattery and tricks, he made the parson and the people his fools. But truth to tell, at last, he was in church a noble preacher. Well could he read a devotional lesson or story. But best of all, he sang an offertory, for well he knew when that song was sung, he must preach and file smooth his tongue, to win silver as he full well could. Therefore he sang both merrily and loud. Now I have told you truly in brief the calling, the appearance, the number, and the reason why assembled was this company in Southwark at this good hostelry, by name of the Tabard, near by the Bell. Now in now in is the time for me to tell how we conducted ourselves the same night when we were in the hostelry settled, and after will I tell of our journey and all the remainder of our pilgrimage. But first I pray you of your courtesy, that you not take it as my bad manners, even though I speak plainly in this matter, to tell you their words and their behavior, even though I speak their words verbatim, for this you all know as well as I, whoso shall tell a tale heard from another man, he must repeat closely as he can every word if it is to be in his charge, however rough or rude, or else he must tell his tale untrue, or make it up, or find words new. He may not hold back even to spare his brother. He must say as well as one word as another. Christ himself spoke down to earth in holy writ, and well you know no vulgarity is in it. And Plato says, who can him read? The words must be cousin to the deed. Also I pray you to forgive me, that I have not described the folk here in this tale in order of their rank. My wit is short, you may well understand. Very welcome our host made us everyone, and to the supper he set us anon. He served us the best of food. Strong was the wine, and it pleased us to drink. Perfect for his work was our host withal, for he had presided over a noble's great hall. A large man he was, with protruding eyes. No better burgher was there in all Cheapside, both of his speech, and wise, and well taught, and of manhood he lacked right naught. And also he was truly a merry man, and after supper to jest he began, and spoke of mirth among many other things, after we had paid our bills, and said thus, Now, lords, truly, you are to me right welcome heartily, for by my troth I shall not lie, I've not seen this year so merry a company at one time in this inn as in now. Happily I offer some merriment, knew I how, and of such I have just now thought, to give you pleasure, and it shall cost naught. You go to Canterbury, God you speed, and may this blissful martyr reward your deed. And well I know, as you go your way, that you make plans to share some tales, for truly pleasure or merriment is there none to ride along as dumb as stone, and therefore will I make you a game, as I said before, and have some fun. And if it pleases you all with one voice, now to abide by my judgment, and to proceed as I will now say, tomorrow when you set out on your way, now by my father's soul who is dead, unless you be merry, I will give you my head. Hold up your hands without more speech, with needed not long to agree. We thought it not worth too long a ponder, and granted his terms without thinking longer, and bade him say his verdict as he pleased. Lords, said he, now listen well, but take it not, I pray you, wrong. This is the point to speak short and plain, that each of you, to shorten our journey, in this journey shall tell 2 tales, toward Canterbury, that is, and homeward, each another 2 shall tell, of adventures that once upon a time you befell, and whichever of you does best of all, that is to say, who tells to this end, tales of best wisdom, instruction, and delight, shall have a supper on the rest of us. Here in this place, this same site, when we come again from Canterbury, and for to make you the more merry, I will myself gladly with you ride, right at my own cost, and be your guide. And whoso will my judgment nay say, shall pay all we spend along the way. And if you grant that it to be so, to me anon without words more, and I will myself quickly prepare. This thing we agreed, and our oaths sworn, with full glad heart, and we begged him also, that he would be willing to do so, and that he would be our governor, and of our tales judge and referee, and set a supper at a certain price, and he would be governed by his word in every way, and thus by one assent we agreed to his judgment. And thereupon the wine we fetched, anon we drank, and to bed went each one, without any longer tarrying. In the morning, when day began to spring, up rose our host, and was for all our rooster, and gathered us together, all in a flock. And forth we rode at a trot to St. Thomas a watering. And there our host stopped his horse, and said, Lords, hearken, if you please. You know our agreement, and so, if even song and morning song agree, let's see now who shall tell the first tale. And surely as I may ever drink wine or ale, whoso rebels against my judgment shall pay for all that on the road we spend. Now draw lots before we further go. He that has the shortest shall begin. Sir Knight, said he, my master and my lord, now draw your straw, for that is my word. Come nearer, said he, my lady prioress, and you, sir scholar, forget your shyness, and study not, lay hand to every man, at once to draw every person began, and shortly to tell it as it was, or if by chance, or fortune, or fate. The truth is, the lot fell to the knight, and which full blithe and glad was every person, until he must his tale as he was right, by agreement or arrangement, as you have heard, who needs more words? And when this good man saw it was so, as he was wise and willing to keep his word, he said, Since I shall begin the game, why, welcome my lot in God's name. Now let us ride, and hear what I say. And with that we rode forth on our way, and he began with right merry cheer his tale anon, and said, as you may hear. That's the general prologue from the Canterbury Tales. I think I bought this because it had something to do with a dream I had. I forgot, but it had something to do with a night or something, and I can't remember, but I bought this book, and I bought the other one too. So that's the first one of the Canterbury Tales, the general prologue. Thank you for watching.